Hi, my name is Tomasz and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's video we're going to review my Metabo thicknesser. Check out the video. So let's roll it out and see it in its full glory. Okay, so as you can see, more or less the build and how it looks like, it's similar to any other thicknesser on the current market. Now, the first thing that we obviously need to mention is the price tag. I was very lucky because I actually managed to get it on an offer for £250 British. Now, saying that, that was more than 2 years ago, so I had this machine for a while now. Currently on Amazon you can get it for around £389 British. So as you can see, I was fairly lucky to get this machine for £250. The second obvious thing that we need to mention is it works. After a couple of years it still works and it does the job absolutely fine with no issues at all. But let's talk about a few features of this machine and more or less just check it all around. The first thing I want to check for you is how loud it is, and I've got this little thingamajig that will tell us that exactly. Now, I test my tools with a meter away from this device. That's the first test, and the second one is basically when you're standing next to the machine, so you can see the comparison of how loud the machine is, and then you'll know if it's feasible for you to actually run this machine in your backyard so the neighbors will not call the local council on you. So let's check it out. So here is the setup. That's the thicknesser there. We've got our decibel measuring device over here, and let's turn on the machine itself. So as you have seen and heard, it's a pretty loud machine, and obviously if you're going to be running it in the very early hours of the morning or very late at night, you may have some really upset neighbors. The next important thing we need to talk about this machine is the dust/chip extraction. Now, most of the times when you see people using thicknesses like that, the chips are going absolutely everywhere, and well, you basically have to clean up your workshop after use. Now, with this machine, initially the chip/dust extraction is actually not too bad until a certain point, and I'll show you why. So this is obviously the back side of the machine when the wood comes out. And this is where the chips or the dust go out. You can plug in your shop vac over here, and it really actually works fine. It really manages to remove all the chips and there's nothing flying around at all until a certain point, due to the flaw of the design of this machine in a way, at least with regards to dust extraction. So I'll take it off, and as you can see, so the design of this plastic attachment is in a bit like a cone shape. So it's small over here and gets wider as it gets down. So what's the problem with that? It actually gets blocked by the chip itself in the narrow part over here. But on top of that, you've got also this small void over here where the chips actually get out and go into that plastic part. And as you can see, that is actually not big at all, and the chips got clogged up over here because, you know, with a planer the chips actually are quite large, and they just get clogged up over here, and then the extraction is absolutely pointless. Nothing's happening. The shop vac is not able to pull it out, and then you've got the chips and the dust flying absolutely everywhere. So from one point, this is actually very frustrating because this dust extraction works, and it works well onto a certain point. Now, what is that point? It's actually very, very quick. Now, I usually run this machine for an hour or two, because I don't do one single board at a time, I'll do a few. And probably after 10 or 15 minutes of constant work with this machine, it gets blocked up. And at that point, the chips are flying everywhere. Now, obviously, you can take the plastic attachment and clear it out and put it back and start it again, but it takes too much time and it's absolutely pointless. So I still run it with my shop vac. I get as much as I can, but then I have to clean up my garage, as the chips will go everywhere. So that's one of the things you have to consider when purchasing this unit, but I think it's a common issue with most of the thicknesses on the market. As you've seen, I've got this machine on a cart, and that works absolutely fine for me. I used to be moving this machine before I actually got organized, and I have to say this machine weighs a ton and it's fairly hard to actually move it around. So I would suggest building some sort of a cart, or just have a dedicated space on your workbench or in your workshop somewhere, because it is a pain to actually move it around. What I actually really do like about this machine is the lever over here, which allows for the cutting head to go up and down. Now, on the machine itself, you've got a full spin, that's 2 millimeters, and obviously half a spin 1 millimeter, so it's easy to judge where about more or less you are. And as you can see, the lever pulls away, and if you need to store this machine, you know, it's a lot easier that way. Also, a cool thing that the machine actually has, it does have 2 handles on the top of it, so it's easy to, you know, move it around if you really have to. A really nice feature that's included in this machine is the depth stop. So basically you can be assured that each single board will come to the same dimensions as the original one. So it's just a lever over here, and you can go from obviously 0 to 45 millimeters. So it's a very good spectrum. It's a very decent amount for you to work with any material. So I actually find it very useful, and when I have to have a lot of boards with the same thickness, this is a really godsend, and it helps ever so much. One thing that's worth mentioning as well are the tables. You've got the ability to adjust them. You've got bolts over here at the front and obviously at the back. Now, the issue with that, because this machine creates, well, some vibrations, obviously, as it works, you have to check those tables from, well, once in a while, just to make sure they actually are all square and flat to the main table inside of the machine, because you know, like with anything, things like that do tend to undo themselves, and obviously then if your tables are not flat to the main table inside of the machine, then you're not going to get the best results. At the front of the machine also, you got the guides over here, how much stock you actually taking off, and that's quite useful. You know exactly where you are. There's a pin over here that goes on the wood itself, and you know exactly if you take in way too much than you should, or actually, you know, you need to lower the cutting head a little bit more. On top of that, obviously you've got your on-off switches over here, and this lever here, it locks the cutting head in place. So when you set your depth, this will make sure the cutting head stays exactly when it needs to. Another positive thing that I have to mention is what materials can it actually take. It takes up to 32.5 centimeter wide boards. So in my opinion, that's absolutely massive for the compact machine as it is. And it does have 1800 watts motor, so there's more than enough power in the machine to tackle any projects. So what are the boards, what are the materials I usually use with this machine? Scaffolding planks, I use oak, sapele, cherry, maple. So, you know, it tackles hardwoods really good, and the finish on those is absolutely fantastic. But obviously, like with any thicknesser, you have to consider that it will give you a bit of snipe, but it's manageable, it's not too bad. This is the downside of these types of machines. As the rollers push through the material, it will give that bit of snipe on the end of the board, unfortunately. And as I mentioned before, this machine weighs a ton, which is exactly 35 kilograms, so it is very, very heavy. Now I think the direct competitor to this machine would be the Triton thicknesser, and they're both very good machines, and a lot of my friends actually got the Triton and they say it's very good as well. Now if you want to check the Metabo or the Triton, I'm going to drop some links below in the comments and in the description of this video, so you can both check them out on Amazon and compare what's really is better for you. But relatively there would be more or less same machines. I think the cutting capacity when it comes to how wide boards you can get, I think the Metabo is actually a little bit bigger. I believe the Triton has got 31.5 centimeters. So if you need the maximum capacity of the cutting, it's definitely the Metabo would probably be slightly better, but I believe the Triton is few quid cheaper than the Metabo. Now, as I stated at the start of this video, I really had absolutely no issues with this machine. It runs fantastically, no problems whatsoever. And sometimes I probably actually overdo it because I run it for 2 or sometimes even 3 hours constantly, because I've got so much material to actually run it through and get it ready for future projects. So even with that pressure, yeah, probably the motor gets a little bit hot, but I had no issues whatsoever with it. Not much else to say, to be fair. If you can get this machine on offer, I think you can't go wrong at all. But it all depends what you want. If you can get the Triton on an offer, I would definitely go for that as well. It all goes down on the price, to be fair. Metabo is a well-known make, and it does have its respect from the quality of the tools they make. And I have to say, this is a quality tool. One thing that I forgot to mention, on the top obviously you've got this nice stable base here, so you can put your board, run it through, put your board, and that helps a lot as well with tackling your workflow. But overall, I'm really pleased with this machine, and if you're looking for a thicknesser, I can definitely recommend this one. But it all depends on money, as you know. If you can get it on offer, get it. But if you can get the Triton on offer, get that as well. They're both very good machines, and I had testimonials from quite a few of my friends actually using the Triton, and they say it's absolutely brilliant and fine as well. So it all depends what you can get in your country, but Metabo is definitely a good one. I hope this quick review actually gave you a bit of insight on this machine, and if you're interested in my workshop and other tools I've actually got, I've got a playlist over here with all my tools I've got. I recently done a review of all of them, so you can see how they perform after a year or couple of years of usage. But from me, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.